Very excited right now to be joined by one of the longest tenured head baseball coaches in the state of North Carolina. Welcome into the program, High Point University's Craig Cozart.
Thanks for having me, Bubba. Appreciate it. Good to
Absolutely, and we
here.
appreciate you coming back on. Caught up with you last year before
Yeah.
the craziness that ensued. A month or so later. But Coach, just talk about how has your program handled the last 10 months or so.
Yeah. Obviously everybody's heard how, different and difficult at times things have been. But I got to give my guys credit, our team credit, especially my coaching staff. I think we've been able to maximize what we can do. And our message to our guys has been, let's focus on what we can control. We can't control the shutdowns. We can't control, only being able to have a certain number of guys in the weight room at a time. We can't control, throwing bullpens and having to disinfect the baseballs afterwards. But let's focus on what we can control and what we can do, and focus on, the fact that, we're pretty fortunate to be able to have done as much as we have. If you look around the world and see how people have been impacted. As COVID has affected different people's lives and lives have been lost, it's kind of been our message to our guys, hey, make the most of today and maximize your opportunities, because you never know, tomorrow's not a guarantee. In light of that approach, I think our guys are in a good way. They're ready to get out there, hopefully come February 19th and get out there and play the game that they love again.
Like I mentioned in the open, Coach, only NC State's Elliott Avent, Elon's Mike Kennedy, and Western Carolina's Bobby Miranda have been at their respective schools longer than you have. So just talk about where you see things with your program entering year 13 there at High Point.
Yeah, well, I'm obviously very grateful for the opportunity to continue to do what we're doing here. I believe wholeheartedly in the mission of our university and where we're going as a program. And we've kind of been one of these methodical programs. We haven't had that epiphany year yet, but we just consistently grind and find ways to get better annually. And I love where we're at. I love our guys. Yes, people always measure what you're doing in wins and losses, but our focus is not exclusively on that within our program here. We focus on our guys getting a quality degree. I think 14 of our last 15 semesters, we've had a team GPA of a 3.0 or higher. I think that's a huge credit to not only our academic services, but to our coaching staff and the attention that we put into our guys' academic process. We don't always get the, most high profile blue chip prospects, but we do a good job of developing them. We've had 3 pitchers just in the last 5 years that have pitched in the big leagues, and one of very few programs that have had multiple pitchers pitch in the league championship series or World Series just in the last 5 years. So, from a player development standpoint, I like what we're doing. Our guys play the game the right way, and they represent their families, our program, and our university in the highest manner, as young men. So to me, that is success. But our focus is still on continuing to grow and do things that have never been done here before. We're still searching for, that conference championship and NCAA tournament appearance and beyond. We're not even just satisfied with that. We don't feel like that's the cap for what we're capable of doing. But you got to, take those steps first before you get on to bigger and better things.
Taking a look at things, just talk about, going into this year. Where do things stand as far as positionally, and then we'll touch on your pitching staff.
Okay. Yeah. We honestly have a really good core of returning players. You can call them, COVID sophomores or whatever that might be. But we do have a really good core of returning players. Essentially, we have 9 returning position players that started for us at different times last year. I think the first guy you look at is Travis Holt, our shortstop, who's hit in the middle of our order for the bulk of his career. He's batted over 300, just an outstanding baseball player, does things the right way, works extremely hard, is a tremendous leader for our team. Then there's another guy, Joe Johnson, who's going to obviously pitch for us as well, but he's going to hit in the middle of our order. He can play, both of the corner outfield positions. And those guys have been here. Joe's been here now. This will be his 5th year. Travis Holt, his 4th year. So those guys kind of, are the heart and soul of, what we're doing from a position player standpoint. But then you look at guys like Brady Pree and Sam Zajac and Evan Bergman, who had a lot of playing time, even when they were freshmen, that are primed and ready to go, and can do, a lot of things for us. Evan Bergman's a guy that can play, really any of our 3 outfield positions, but also play a significant amount of time at first base. Then it's going to be a mix defensively at the rest of our infield positions. It's going to be a lot about matchups and what we're going to do from an offensive standpoint in the lineup when we decide who's going to be playing second base, who's going to be playing third, and also first base. Cole Sing-Sank is a returning sophomore, or COVID freshman who actually had a couple games where he hit in the 4-hole for us. He's got a tremendous amount of power. And can do some really good things from that standpoint. And then I really like our catching core. I think we're legitimately 3 deep behind the plate. Justin Wilkins is our most experienced guy, tremendous catch and throw guy, handles our staff really, really well. Blake Sutton is a left-handed hitting, I guess he would be a COVID freshman as well, who can really do some special things for us. Very athletic, very loose behind the plate. And then Tyler Leach, who's a freshman, is just like a stone wall behind the plate. That guy's got absolutely special bat power, but great approach. He's going to hit for average for us. So, we're really deep behind the plate. We have a lot of versatility, with our defense. And so a lot of what we do from a defensive standpoint is going to be depending on how we want to structure our lineup.
Coach, before we take a look at your pitching staff, kind of working in reverse a bit, just a general overview of your roster. Under normal circumstances, you have a 35-man roster. Where do things stand with that this year?
Yeah, we're actually well beyond that. We do have 42 players on the roster. We had guys we wanted to give opportunities. We returned 3 of our 6 seniors from last year. Unfortunately, the 3 seniors that we didn't return were really, really high level contributors for us. But all 3 of those guys already have jobs. 2 of them had their master's degrees. So they were like, Coach, we'd love to come back, but we've already got our master's. We need to move on in life. So it's been, pretty interesting to see, those contributors and have those seniors come back. I got off track there, so I'm not sure what I was supposed to be answering your question there, kind of reflecting on our seniors. But those guys,
just the numbers with the 35-man roster.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, 42. Yeah. Again, really unique situation. Kind of took me back to the days when I first started coaching to be able to give as many guys opportunities as we did. We're constantly looking toward the future, though, because those roster limitations do start to kick in next year.
And before we talk about the pitching staff, piggybacking off the previous comments you're making, just with welcoming back, I think you said 3 of 6 seniors, and you take a look around the country, I think obviously college baseball is always good, and it's always fun to watch, but it should be even better this year.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think everybody across the board, if you look at it, this is going to be a marquee year in college baseball at every level. I think at the Division I, II, junior college level, the talent is going to be amazing. When you reduce the draft down to 5 rounds and, how that impacts incoming recruiting classes and what you return on your existing rosters, that there's going to be tremendous talent, a ton of parity. I mean, I look at our league, and I just look at how many teams you feel like, golly, they're in contention. They've got the type of talent that they can put themselves in position to challenge for, the regular season championship. So it's going to be fun to watch how that develops.
Taking a look at your pitching staff, and just talk about candidates you have to start. What do you return from last year, and then what do you have coming in, or maybe it was on campus last year but in a different role?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, the first one that comes to mind that will pitch for us on Fridays is Gray Little. Gray is a COVID senior, tremendous competitor. He's got great stuff, but he just has unbelievable moxie. Kids don't even know what that word means nowadays, do they, Bubba? But had great moxie, and he's pitched in a variety of roles for us. He was our closer for a significant amount of his time and his career here, which allows him to really understand the importance of each individual pitch. I feel like sometimes when guys are young and they get put in the rotation at an early age, they don't have an appreciation for each individual pitch nearly as much, because they feel like, all right, well, I've got 75, 80, 90 pitches here. Whereas if you're a closer, you know that your first pitch may be your last. But Gray's going to be a guy that's going to pitch in the low 90s. We've had him up to 95 this fall, plus slider, good curveball, really locates well with the fastball, and can finish guys with a slider. Trent Harris broke into our rotation last year as a sophomore, and I'm really excited about his progression. Low 90s arm with two distinct breaking balls. Has a plus slider that's in the low 80s, good curveball, can show a changeup when he needs it, creates a lot of angle. He's very athletic. He's played shortstop for us. He's played third base and second base for us during his career, but is pretty much transitioning to the mound full time. Those guys are our clear-cut 1 and 2 and have established that thus far. There's a lot of guys that are still in the mix for that third spot in the rotation. Carter Shepard's a very physical, talented guy that's low to mid 90s arm that's in contention for that. Dawson Place, a kid out of Florida who pitched a little bit, had a couple starts for us last year as a 4-pitch mix guy. And he'll touch 90, but he's really got, a lot of pitchability and deception. He's in contention for that. Nick Hernandez is a senior JUCO kid. It's just a pitcher. He's not going to blow you away with stuff, but he has deception, throws any pitch in any count, can get out there and get you deep into a game. You look up if you're the opponent, you look up and you say, man, he hasn't thrown a single pitch that necessarily blew us away, but why do we have 3 hits through 5 and no runs on the board? So those are some guys that are in contention for the rotation. The rotation is extremely important for us this year because playing a single game on Friday in conference and then doubleheader Saturday, all of which will be 9-inning games, 27 innings in 48 hours, means that you have to get quality starts, or you're going to tax your bullpen, at a really, really difficult way if you don't get quality starts. And then we do have 4 midweek conference games, so that means you have to have a 4th starter ready to go that's going to give you quality and depth. Beyond that, Joe Johnson, who I touched on earlier, will be one of our main guys out of the bullpen. Joe has added a little bit to his repertoire in that he now changes arm angles, creates a little more deception that way. He's a low 90s arm from the top, but he's an upper 80s arm from the side with heavy sink and a good slider from there. Throws a curveball and changeup from the top. Mason Kearney returns. He was a freshman last year that had 3 or 4 appearances for us without giving up a run. And then a couple of freshmen that have really emerged just lately in the spring that will pitch at the back end of our bullpen are a couple of North Carolina boys. David Keith from Fuquay Varina. He's been up to 94th this fall and this spring, plus slider, really, really good changeup, explosive back into the bullpen type stuff that honestly, long-term, we see him being in the rotation. And then Griffin Shelton, who's from Greensboro, actually Winston-Salem area, is another guy that's really come on very strong with us. He's an upper 80s, low 90s arm, but it just has ride and hop in the zone. And the fastball just plays at a really, really high level. So those are the guys that have really emerged thus far, but we do have other pieces that we're counting on.
When talking about the importance of having 4 starters, and you referenced the 40-game Big South Conference schedule, so if you would talk a little bit more about that and how that was necessary with the current times with the COVID-19 pandemic, and then also touch on your non-conference slate.
Okay. Yeah. I got to give the guys, especially Tom Reginas down at Winthrop, credit for getting us as a coaching staff together and kind of having some forward thinking. A lot of our coaches in the league had some great ideas that we brought to the table actually in November, before all of this stuff really kind of hit. We wanted to present our athletic directors with a schedule that showed that we understand that there needs to be some reduction in the overall play, just from a budgetary as well as an exposure standpoint due to COVID. We came up with a 40-game conference schedule, 36 games being, 12 3-game weekends, and then 4 midweek games, which allows us to play 10 non-conference games. But with the single Friday, doubleheader Saturday, all 9-inning games, it's going to really make it very, very challenging to manage your pitching staff. One thing we've always prided ourselves on is pitching great at the end of the year. If you look at 3 years ago in the conference tournament, all of our starters, all 4 of our starters that hit the mound in the conference tournament showed their highest velocities of the year in the conference tournament. That means we did a good job of managing them. The following year, we had 3 consecutive complete games thrown in the conference tournament, and those were only 3 complete games that we had thrown all year. So we pride ourselves in managing our staff, developing the depth of our staff, and putting our guys in position to be at their best at the end of the year when we need to make hay in the conference tournament. So now we got to figure out how to manage, especially the bullpen situation. We rarely throw guys back-to-back days. I think we're looking at a piggyback situation where if a guy comes in and gets us, 6 to 9 outs on a Friday, then he'll be ready to go on Tuesday. If he throws again on Tuesday, he probably wouldn't be live again until Saturday. And then likewise, the guys that throw on Saturday would be ready to rotate back in relief on a Friday. So it's very complicated, but I think we have a grasp of how we want to do it. But all that is predicated on those guys going out and doing their jobs. And if somebody doesn't do their job, then that exposes somebody else to have to shoulder more of a load than they necessarily would want to, or we would want them to at that point. So yeah, it's pretty complicated, but we're well prepared for it, and we have a grasp of it. Our non-conference slate, we open up with Bryant at home in a 3-game series. They've dominated the NEC for the last decade. Very good program, and Closty, the head coach up there, he's well known in the baseball world and is going to do a great job there. I think he's heading into his 2nd year up there. And then Billy Godwin and I, longtime friends, we're going to tee it up in the 2nd weekend of the year against UNCG in a 3-game series, which we hadn't done in a while. And we're going to actually play that downtown at the High Point Rockers Stadium, the independent league team that is here in town, and just make that a cool event. It's going to be good for our fans because the Rockers can host more fans than what we are allowed at either one of our venues right now based on the governor's directives. And so that's what we're doing from that standpoint. Then our midweek games, our 4 midweeks will be 2 against Elon, home and home. Then North Carolina A&T at home, as well as UNCG for a 4th game at home as well.
As always, Coach, we appreciate your time this morning. Appreciate you coming on to talk about your program there at High Point, and we look forward to having you back down the road.
Sounds good, Bubba. Thanks for all you do for us here in the state from a college baseball standpoint. So good luck.